Hello and welcome to this World Cup Matchday 2 edition of the FPL Scope podcast. I am your host Mathias, and with me today, like last time, I have Kevin. Introduce yourself, Kevin. How are you doing? What do you think about the World Cup so far?
Yeah, it's been a exciting one so far. It's a shame of you know seeing Messi lose, obviously, and Argentina not getting the best start, but really fun to see Germany lose. So I can say it's pretty much balanced out. We've had some upsets, we've had some interesting performances, and yeah, it's been an exciting World Cup so far.
Yeah, there's been quite a few controversies on and off the pitch, really. Just want to know what you think about the whole added time thing. That's FIFA has, or they've instructed the referees to add more time than usual at the end of matches. What do you think of that change?
I I mean, it feels really unnatural, just the amount of time. I mean, I'm one of those sort of guys where I get really irritated when the right amount doesn't get applied. So now there being an overabundance of that, I feel even more weirded out because there are some games where I'm like, nothing's really happened. And there's like, oh, 6 minutes of extra time. Okay, great. Sort of thing. And then it ends up being like, oh, a team's actually chasing for an equalizer or to get the win. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess it makes it a bit more exciting at some points, but at the same time, I'm just like, if you're, a team that's rightfully in the lead and all this type of stuff, it just leaves an unnecessary amount of time for another team to, just give it all they got. Um, we'll see. I think all depends on because it's only been one match day in that regards. It will be determined more on what effect it has long term. So let's see. But I think so far, eh, I'm not the biggest fan, but I don't hate it at the same time.
Yeah. In general, I've felt like there's been too little time added to matches, so I sort of welcome the change, but it's a bit much when they had. I think they added like 7 minutes to the Spain match today, which was already like 6 or 7-0. Like at that point,
It,
just blow the whistle. Like you don't need
yeah,
to add that many minutes. The match is already over, really. So other than that, I kind of welcome the change. I just want them to clamp down on time wasting. Really, I don't really care. Like the people have been talking about the whole playing time is actually closer to 60 minutes, so that's why they should add more because the ball is how to play that much. But I don't mind really if the ball is how to play like it is regularly. It's just when people time waste and like fall down and pretend to have cramps and all that stuff. If you can get rid of that and then just have those minutes added and nothing else, then that's good for me. I feel like, but so far so good in terms of the World Cup as well. Same thing for me. Been ups and downs. I support Argentina and Japan in this World Cup, so it's been roller coaster of emotions. Really, it's really fun to see Japan beat Germany today. Really fun display as well from the Japanese team. It's something special about the World Cup that despite like one team having all the major stars and stuff, the other team might just be a more cohesive unit and play better together and still get a result from it. So fun to see Japan, fun to see Canada as well, to be fair, today. They should have had more points than the 0 they got against Belgium, who were really disappointing, but we'll get to that pretty soon. First, we're just going to go through our match days and look how we've done so far in terms of fantasy World Cup. And I don't have many complaints personally. I have I have a pretty good team. I'm pretty happy. On top of both of my mini leagues, I think. And yeah, pretty decent team. I still have a couple players left as well, so hopefully I can get some more points from them. Let's quickly go through the team. I have doubled up on defense in terms of Netherlands players. I have Noppert in goal, who started for Netherlands and did a fine match. Didn't really have much to save against Senegal, really. Senegal were decent, but it was really like a pretty tight contested game with not that many chances. But Noppert did well in like his first cap for the Netherlands. He has barely played any matches for his club either, so it's pretty interesting to see that he's like straight into like one of the favorites to win the tournament, straight into the team there. But yeah, he got 7 points on top of Dumfries with 6 points. Dumfries could have had more as well. He was pretty offensively involved, but not as much as I could have hoped, maybe. But I think he's a great pick for the future as well. I can see now that I have the incorrect kit on Pavard, but that is, Pavard got 1 point, Trippier got 1 point as well, so they're basically the same player. That's why they're sort of meshed, but yeah. Anyways, Pavard got 1 point and Trippier got 1 point. I benched Trippier after his match, and I also did the same with Bergwijn after his match, which was a mistake on my part because Bergwijn got 2 points, and I have Pavard now in the starting lineup with 1 point, and Bergwijn on the bench with 2 points. So I lost the points from just pure, stupidity, really. I was just too eager to switch out the player that blanked, so paid a little bit of a price for that. So that's a mistake on my end. I had Mele for Denmark, clean sheet for them against Tunisia, as expected, really. He could have had an assist, but his assist for Skov, who I also have, was disallowed for offside. That would have been a lot of points for me and many other managers, because those two Danish players are really popular. Then Sosa got a clean sheet for Croatia. He could have had an assist as well. He looked really lively for 3.5 for Croatia as a starting left back. As offensive as he is, he's just a great option. Like we said before, Matchday 1 as well. If he starts, he's an amazing guy to have for 3.5, and he certainly fulfilled that promise as well. Someone who didn't fulfill his promises was Kevin De Bruyne. I'm not as mad about that as you are, as we'll come to discuss pretty soon with your team. He got 2 points, 1 point for the appearance, 1 point for the clean sheet. He was involved. He just had really poor body language. Belgium didn't look the part as well, and he missed some obvious passes. He had one pass in the first half to Tielemans, which was like wide open, where he just didn't see him for some reason. He did like a harder pass to pull off, and the end result would have been worse as well. So kind of weird to see De Bruyne kind of off the pace. Same with Belgium. Scholes, as I said, he got a goal disallowed from a melee assist. Could add some points, but he was a cheap player anyway, so it doesn't really matter. 2 points, fair enough. Gonna have some blanks. Musiala also blanked against Japan. He could easily have more points, but for me, I support Japan, so I was happy to see Japan turn around anyway. So, but yeah, Musiala, he showed his class anyway, but it's just he needs to provide the fantasy points as well. But I've already swapped him out, or I'm going to swap him out for De Arrascaeta, who is my final player. It just depends if I'm going to keep De Arrascaeta or if I'm going to sub him out or transfer him out, because I still have my 2 transfers left. So I might do one of the... we'll talk more about the budget glitch later and how I could maybe potentially abuse that to get Bruno Fernandes or something like that, but we'll get to that later. Messi had a disappointing game, but he still scored a goal, a penalty, so he got 6 points. He was my captain, but I switched the captaincy to Mbappe, and I'm pretty happy with that decision, because Mbappe got 3 points more than Messi. He could easily have way more as well. He had some big chances missed. He has 7 shots in the box and still only got 1 shot on target, so he kind of missed a couple big chances, but he was all right. And then my best performing player was Ferran Torres with 10 points. He scored 2 goals and got subbed off before the hour mark, so he lost out 1 point from that. But 10 points was more than enough. I also had Bergwijn, who blanked. I mentioned that earlier. I subbed him off. And I still have Rocher for Uruguay, but I'm not going to sub him in for Noppert, who got 7 points. So, and I also have Neymar as the 12th man. So I'm excited to see what he can do as well. So that's pretty much my team. I don't know if you have any comments. I know you warned me about the Bergwijn thing, the mistake I did. Is anything else? What do you think I should do with De Arrascaeta and that stuff?
I mean, if he plays, you might as well just take a chance. He might not. I mean, he might somehow get 0 points if he somehow gets subbed off before the 60th. But I think when you have a bunch of players that randomly just got 1 point, which really should just be 2 points, because most of them did actually play past 60 minutes and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's worth the risk, because the worst that he can get is minus points, which I highly doubt that he will.
Yeah.
And obviously the sky's the limit in terms of what he can actually do. He might get a random goal or assist or at least 2 points, which is 1 point better than Musiala at this point. So yeah, I think it's just worth giving it a go. I do think if you're planning on doing the wild card, as we'll get to see with my team, if you plan on doing the wild card game week 2, you might as well do the glitch, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's
Yep.
only if you plan on doing your wild card. I mean, saving it also makes sense, but at the same time, I just feel like you could save it for game week 3 instead, and roll your transfers and everything, or at the very least make one transfer if you want to. But at this rate, I think 64 is pretty good with 12th man Neymar, who could easily score a goal at the very least to bring you up to 70, which is a more than respectable first game week points tally, I guess.
Yeah, the only other thing with Rasqueta is if I decide against using the wildcard in Matchday 2, I can swap him out for Paqueta, who I'm leaning towards getting next Matchday. So there's a couple options I have. Just depends if I do the wildcard or not. I'm currently like 20%, like 80% going to do the wildcard Matchday 2, but I'll get into that a bit later when you come to the fixtures. First, you're going to look at your team. So just take us through the team and what you think about the players and how they performed.
Yeah, I mean, I got 55 points. It should have been higher, considering I didn't really have the best feeling about switching from Messi to De Bruyne. I should have probably, if I was going to do anything, I maybe should have done it for Neymar, if anyone, or just gone Kane for Messi and just been happy with the 12 points. I got Noppert in goal, who got 7 points. Dumfries, I mean, I was always doubling up on Netherlands, so very happy with their returns. I mean, it's 13 points just from 2 players who maybe shouldn't have gone that, but at the very least they did. Trippier, who got 1 point, didn't look that bad, to be fair. Still looked like the Newcastle Trippier that we all know and love. Took a bunch of free kicks, took a bunch of corners. I mean, yeah, I think he can still haul. We all know the reason why we have Trippier, and that's not because of clean sheets. It's more because of what he can do offensively. So I think against USA, who I think if someone of England's sort of stature and playing ability plays them, I think it could actually favor someone like Trippier, because I didn't think Wales looked good at all, and they were able to somehow snatch a point against them. So, yeah, I think Trippier is still someone who's going to stay in my team despite the low return of 1 point. Mela, 6 points. I'll be honest, very lucky to get 6 points, because yes, he could have gone an assist and everything like that if things didn't go offside and etc. But yeah, Denmark should have conceded multiple times. I think there was just some really weird, I guess, shot selections. I'm one of those sort of guys where I'm like, if you are through on goal and you can just pick a post, just pick a post. Why are you chipping for? And why are you trying to chip Kasper Schmeichel, of all people, who's like notoriously known for being pretty good at like with his reflex saves and stuff like that? I thought that was a stupid decision, but I'm very happy with the returns. Obviously, I mean, I had 4 clean sheets technically in terms of goalkeeper and defenders, because I also had Sosa, who should have actually gone assist and gone 9 points. And to me, Croatia didn't really look at all like they were ever going to concede. So really happy with his returns, especially over the fact that he's 3.5. Bergwijn, wasn't great, but I think that also comes down to the fact that Depay wasn't playing, because the minute Depay came on, everything changed. So I think Bergwijn deserves another chance, especially with their next game. He only got 2 points, but I can easily see that becoming, like a 9-pointer next week. Like I could see him scoring at least a goal in the next match. De Bruyne can kiss my ass. Look, it's a bit harsh to say that De Bruyne was terrible. He wasn't terrible. He just didn't come up to the standards that we know he can, you know, be. And in terms of his actual points, because he only got 2 points, could have easily have been like at least an assist today because Batshuayi, despite scoring and scoring a wonderful goal at that, was really wasteful. I think he shows why he gets a lot of goals for Belgium and stuff like that, but at the same time, why he's never going to be their starting striker
Mm.
because he just wastes so many chances, does a lot of stupid decisions. And frankly, if you're someone who wants to roll on KDB, if there's Lukaku news and Lukaku's like dead set to start, then I'd say, yeah, 100% play KDB because those two work really well together. But yeah, really disappointing that KDB didn't perform well. Really disappointing that Belgium didn't perform well. But it was really fun to see Canada give it a real honest go. Alfonso Davis, very unlucky not to score the pen. Canada still looking to score at the World Cup just in their history. So it's awful because I really love Alfonso Davis as a player and as a person. I think he's just a wonderful talent and everything like that. So it's just a shame. And Courtois being freakishly tall is always going to be difficult to score a pen. But yeah, enough about that. Musiala, at 1 point, it's really frustrating in two ways. It's frustrating because of the fantasy aspect of stuff, but it was also frustrating in the sense of for anyone who's German because I felt Musiala was a class above a lot of the players today. The same
Mm.
as I felt with De Bruyne. I thought Musiala was great. I thought Nabry was also great, and yeah, it was just really weird for them to end up losing. It was also really weird that he only got 1 point because he had several shots. He had definitely a lot of key passes that could have led to goals and stuff like that, but then really stupid shot selections and stuff like that from both Musiala and the German players, which led to them losing. And obviously, they scored an offside goal and all this type of stuff. So I wouldn't count Musiala out, but the weird thing is that you might have to, considering the fact that Spain played Germany next, and Spain won a very massively 7-0. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I think Spain's good enough to keep Musiala in check? Probably, and that's why I'm going to look at other options because as we'll get to the match day ticker and everything like that, we'll be able to see that there are a lot of good options. And to be honest, midfielders in general have been terrible this World Cup, unless you had Olmo, Asensio, or Gavi randomly,
Yeah.
who all managed to score. Up front, I had Kane for 7 points. Really unlucky not to get more, but got 2 assists in a 6-2 win over Iran. And yeah, he's maybe got an ankle injury, but it just feels like a typical Harry Kane sort of game where he'll get a brace against USA and get the highest goal scorer or share the highest goal scoring record for England, as Wayne Rooney currently has the record. But the fact that Kane is already only 2 goals behind is absolutely crazy. And I feel like he might either do it this week or in this next match day or the match day after. So uh, cool to be a part of history if he does it. And I think USA didn't really show the class that they're known for. And I think England will completely ruin them. So yeah, I'm going to be sticking with Kane, and we'll be seeing that coming up soon. But yeah, 7 points from him. Messi 6 points. Really, really disappointing from the goat. Not to get more, but when me and Matthias were talking about the game, because I obviously was at the office, and I believe Matthias might have been busy with some stuff too. The words that kept coming out of me was the fact that Argentina got too complacent. They were completely steamrolling Saudi Arabia. If some of the sharpness that they had against Italy and some of these other matches, I think Argentina would have probably gone 3-4-0 at the first half. But the minute they didn't, and the way the second half's intensity started, you sort of knew that it was going to collapse on themselves because they just played awful. And then when they then started chasing, Saudi Arabia very smartly played Diego Simeone sort of 10-man defense sort of thing and played it to perfection, to be completely honest. Like, but also I've never seen Di Maria misplace so many passes. I got flashbacks of Pochettino coaching Messi, because Messi was playing in his own half and all this type of stuff. So really, really disappointing to see. But I think with the fact that they've now lost their record of they were trying to equalize with Italy for 37 matches unbeaten, but they only got 36 now. I think it's better to get it out of the way now so they can just focus on the next game, just come gun blazing, get the 3 points, and beat the living shit out of Mexico. I personally believe Messi feels like he has a lot to prove, especially after only scoring a pen goal. I mean, I think it's a bit harsh to say that, but I know that a lot of people expect him to win the Golden Boot and Player of the Tournament and all this type of stuff. And if he's gonna do that, he's gonna have to score. And I think Mexico and Poland are good opposition for him to do so. Neymar is on my team. I obviously have Pavard and Wahabi Kazri as well, but they both were terrible. So I'm gonna be going with Neymar. I think we said we think Brazil could win the whole thing, and if Brazil are going to win the whole thing, it's going to be thanks to Neymar. I think he's easily someone who can be player of the tournament. And Serbia is not the easiest match, and we could see a maybe cheeky upset or a draw there. But I think Neymar takes set pieces, penalties. He's going to score, and hopefully he'll bring my tally up into the 60s. I also did do the 12th man chip, and I'm very happy with Mbappe, because for me the 12th man chip would have been between Kane and Mbappe, and obviously both got returns, so more than happy with Mbappe. Obviously would have been much nicer if I captained him or whatever, but you know what, my whole philosophy with Matchday 1 is always to try and get 60 points, because 60 points is a nice start. I think a lot of people have screwed up by either tripling up on Denmark or tripling up on teams that haven't performed well. Like, I know quite a few people who had triple Germany, which
or even Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people had Lautaro and Messi, which I warned people about. But to be fair, there was a second there where I was just like, oh, when he scored that nice chip and stuff like that, which should have been onside, right?
Yeah,
that was
a
the goal.
bit controversial. The replay.
Yeah. So as long as Neymar doesn't completely screw things up, I'll be pretty happy with first week, because at the end of the day, people seem to forget. It's just one match day. Things can definitely change very quickly.
Definitely. There's a lot of variance when it comes to World Cup fantasy, especially when it comes to the knockout stages and all the things that go on there, all the implications with teams going out and betting on the wrong horse or the wrong players and stuff. But I mean, you also have Sulemana on your bench. You might use him if he starts for Ghana. Kamaldeen Sulemana, he's a really talented young winger / striker for Ghana. So they play is it South Korea the first match? No, they play Uruguay. No, who do they play? Can't remember exactly.
I believe they play no. They play Uruguay, play South Korea, and Portugal play Ghana. So he'd be playing against Cristiano Ronaldo and his men. So 100% I'm going to start him, because I hate Portugal and everyone who's from there. I was kidding. That's not true at all. But I do not like Cristiano Ronaldo, and I don't like Portugal as a national team because of Luis Figo. So
that's true. But we'll see if Sulemana starts or not. But if he starts, then you can definitely get him in for someone like Musiala and at least get well, he could be subbed off early as well, but it's the same as with Arsketa for me. But you also have 1 million in the bank, but 5 million for a midfielder at this point isn't that much with the options you have left. So I think Suleiman is your best bet, unless you do well, you already done a transfer. You should say that as well. You had Sane and you swapped him out for Musiala.
Yes.
Because Sane
Yes.
didn't start. So you can't really do the budget glitch unless you do a -4 for that. If you want to do Suleiman, if you don't know, if you're unaware of the budget glitch, apparently you can sell a player, like you could sell Neymar, who's 11 million, and drop him down to like someone costing 4 million. Then you'll have a lot of money left. They can upgrade Sulemana to, well, Bruno Fernandes if you want, 9.5 midfielder. And you can go, well, you can, yeah. So you'd have enough money for that. But since you're doing the wildcard next match day, you could actually do that and just be in the clear anyway, without the budget glitch. But yeah, people have been selling players and buying players without the budget to get them in because there's been a glitch with the game. So just in general, the game has been pretty much in shambles in terms of glitches, rules being updated right before the launch, rules being adjusted post-launch, apparently, because midfielders were supposed to get 5 points for every goal scored, and then midway, or well, at least like a quarter way through the match day, they switched it up to be 7 points for every midfielder goal. So yeah, the game is a bit of a mess, but if you can take advantage of it, you should definitely do that. But in terms of your team, it's pretty good. Like you mentioned at the end there, you could have done the Kane as 12th man and then Mbappe as a captaincy option. That's why I did it personally. That's why I have Neymar as 12th man and Mbappe as a player in my team, because then I could use him as captain. But obviously the 12th man is unlimited budget, so you'd lose 1 million from that, so you'd have to downgrade somewhere else to get the money back from that. So, but yeah, I felt like that trade-off with 1 million less to get Mbappe as a captaincy option was worth it, and it sort of was, since he got 3 more points than Messi, and he could have had way more than that. So, but in the end, it was a pretty decent match day for both of us, so I think we should both be pretty happy.
Yeah, I think the only point to add there was I think it just also became a overestimation of Denmark's abilities. Well, I've always said that they are terrible and can't play football. The general consensus was, though, that obviously Denmark are pretty decent and could, on their day, beat anyone, and etc. So I think that's why I was leaning like, oh, I can have Mbappe definitely against Australia, but if push comes to shove, Kane does look like a better option against USA than Mbappe does against Denmark. But then once Mbappe played and Denmark played, it kind of became the opposite sort of thing where it's like, Kane can't get a shot off and Mbappe is shooting way too much. So yeah, it's sort of become a role reversal. It could still mean that we might see a 0-0 between France and Denmark, because maybe it is just that Denmark are very stable at the back and all this type of stuff. But I think, and we'll see very shortly, that I think we're all going to be on the Mbappe train.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you could also use our wildcard, both of us. That's what we're leaning towards doing. That's what we're going to be presenting when we come to our teams. But before we get to our teams, you're going to take a look at the fixtures. Obviously, you have the 2 next match days in the group stage left. But like we said, we're going to use the wildcard. We're just going to go through the rules again in terms of wildcard. You can basically do the wildcard before match day 2, switch out your whole team if you want to, and have the perfect team for match day 2. And then right at the end of match day 2, you can swap out your entire team, keep the points that you collected throughout match day 2, and just swap out all those players for a whole new squad for match day 3. So that way you can basically have 2 separate squads for match day 2 and match day 3 using only your one wildcard. So that's a pretty good option for anyone that's, well, most people are really into fantasy games already, and World Cup Fantasy know this already and probably have this planned already with the wildcard in match day 2. But if you're someone who didn't know, you can definitely do the wildcard at the start of match day 2, and then at the end of match day 2, just swap out your team for a match day 3 squad. And as you can see from the fixtures, there are a lot of the teams that have really good Matchday 2 fixtures, like Poland, Japan, and Tunisia, for example. They have really easy matches in Matchday 2, but then they have really difficult matches in Matchday 3. And the opposite could be said of like some of the better teams, like, well, for example, you have Brazil. Switzerland is a bit tougher than Cameroon. You have Denmark who play France, and then you have Australia. So obviously you would want to get back on players like Mele maybe for Matchday 3, but you don't want him for Matchday 2. Germany, they play Spain in Matchday 2, and then Costa Rica Matchday 3. That's considering Spain beat Costa Rica 7-0. That's a pretty big difference. So if Germany, as it looks like now, Germany has to win against Costa Rica in Matchday 3, you'd really want some Germany players in Matchday 3, but you don't want them for Matchday 2. So having different squads for Matchday 3 and Matchday 2 using the wildcard is a really good option that we'll look into more later. But yeah, first looking ahead to Matchday 2, are there any, well, obviously this is on the screen right now. If you're watching YouTube, you can see the teams on the left are the easiest fixtures in Matchday 2, and then the teams on the right are the easiest, or are the toughest fixtures in Matchday 2. I also cheated a little bit to get Brazil on the left side, so I put them against Switzerland on the left, while Wales against Iran is on the right. But they're also a better team. If you're not using the wildcard, you'd like to have Brazil players for Matchday 3 as well. So in terms of both match days, they have better fixtures than Wales, who face England in Matchday 3. But yeah, are there any matches that stand out to you that you think are underrated, overrated in terms of the difficulty rating? Anything that?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to target 3 teams,
yep,
it would be Iran, Costa Rica, and Qatar.
No.
As in that those are the teams that you should be picking players from.
So you think those 3 teams are the worst teams as of now?
I was trying to actually say that you should be loading up on Iran, Qatar, Costa Rica players, but I couldn't really say that with a straight face. So just basing on this, I think a lot of people were correct in picking England, even though USA and Wales aren't the easiest of games. I think England have demonstrated that unless they play like a France or like a very decent side, that they're just going to be mopping the floor of people. So I think targeting England players are good. I would be a bit like, even though you'll see in my team ideas for next week that Saka could be a one-off, because he got so much space and all this type of stuff. But still, I think target England players because they look good. I think target Netherlands defenders like we did, or potentially get Memphis Depay if you want a differential attacker. I think I want to say target Lewandowski for a premium attacking option, because I genuinely thought Saudi Arabia would be a lot worse, but then it's a combination of Saudi Arabia play like this high press, 90 minutes of running sort of play, and Lewandowski has notoriously been bad at the World Cup. But all things considering, Lewandowski had crazy returns for Poland in terms of qualifying. So, like, it has to give. This might be the game to target him for, especially if you want a differential. I think another team to look out for is Serbia, even though we don't know. They might get whipped 5-0. They could Brazil potentially beat Brazil as well. But I think the matches against Cameroon and Switzerland are easier matches for them. I mean, we have to look back at them in qualifying and everything like that. They look great. And I think they have so many cool options that you can pick from as well. In terms of any obvious things that I can also point out, Messi. I think he's going to it's good that he's already gotten a goal to his name and everything like that, but I think Mexico and Poland should definitely be afraid, because they need to get maximum points now from the remaining matches to go through, and I think they're going to respond like crazy. So I'd say if you don't, for whatever reason, have Messi, maybe it's due to you having Ronaldo, or because, obviously Messi is expensive as well. So you might have just gone with Mbappe, Neymar, and whatever other
Kane as well.
choices. Yeah. So for me, I think load up on at the very least Messi. I could easily see Lautaro Martinez. Also, he'll probably be disappointed not to get that goal credited and everything like that. So he's also a good option. But if you have Messi, please don't load up on the same position, because strikers are really hard to come by, because we only have 3 spots and it only seems to be strikers scoring at this World Cup, unless you're a random Maguire getting an assist or something like that. Yeah, so I'd say pick one or the other if you're going to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think those teams as well, Brazil and Argentina, obviously the favorites in this World Cup. Both of them. Argentina had a disappointing loss for them against Saudi Arabia, but that will only be better for their fantasy assets in terms of the Mexico and Poland games, because they need to win both of those matches now. So I think Messi will be raring to go. He scored against Mexico last time he faced them in the World Cup, didn't he? I think that was a beautiful goal where he took it down on his leg and then shot it. Wasn't it? I think it was Mexico. Was it a different team?
No, the one where he took it down to his knee was against
the last World Cup they had a draw against
Nigeria.
Iceland. Nigeria might be a green kits. So that's probably
no, because he definitely scored against Nigeria because it was him and Rojo, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pass from Rojo, and then he takes it down and shoots it. But anyways,
but he might have done something.
He scores, so
he might have. Is it in Copa America that he might have played Mexico? So that's maybe why you're mixing it up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it might be the green kits as well. But anyways, I think he has a decent shot against Mexico and against Poland to score many goals. So I'm definitely going to be keeping him throughout the World Cup as long as he's in it. I think it just depends if they go through or not now because of the first result that they had. But yeah, like you mentioned as well, Brazil and Serbia. It'll be really interesting to see that group, Brazil and Serbia, how they stack up against each other, and also Cameroon and Switzerland, just to see how good they are. Maybe Cameroon are way better than Switzerland all of a sudden when we all expect Switzerland to be better, but that will also affect how we do things for the next game week as well, or match day, I should say. So yeah, Brazil and Serbia. Serbia have so many options. Like they have potentially Mitrovic if he's injured, potentially Vlahovic. They have Tadic. They have Milinkovic Savic. They have Kostic. All ditches, basically. So look out for Serbia against Brazil. That's going to be a really telling match. It's also going to be interesting to see the other group with Portugal and Uruguay, how they stack up against the teams they face. But yeah, they face each other in match day 2, so it's not that interesting to target any of those players next match day, I think. But just keep an eye on them for match day 3 especially. And then other than that, you haven't mentioned Japan. They had an amazing result against Germany, and now they face Costa Rica, who lost 7-0 to Spain. So I think looking at Japanese players is certainly an option. Well, the only thing with Japan is that they had so many good players on the bench, really. Like they had Tomiyasu on the bench, they had Ritsu Doan who came on and scored on the bench. Asano came on, didn't he? Or scored at least. They have so many good options, really. Really talented players, and a lot of them ironically playing in the Bundesliga as well. So it's just really fun to see them play. And then Costa Rica, who were the worst team so far in the World Cup, I think they've been the least impressive out of all the teams. Even like Australia scored a goal and shocked France at the start there. Tunisia got a draw against Denmark. Canada looked good against Belgium as well. Qatar, that's the other terrible team. So Senegal as well. It's a decent team to look at players from. So Senegal and Japan, potentially Poland. Don't know about Saudi Arabia. I keep doing that mistake. Yeah, I don't know about them. They have obviously a really good national team manager in Hervé Renard, I think. Hervé Renard, the Frenchman who had a really like fiery team talk in the halftime I saw.
Yep.
As well. So he's a really good national team coach. Potentially the next Belgium manager if they go out, if they continue to look bad. So, but yeah, those are the teams targeted in match day 2. Match day 3 we'll talk about for the next podcasts. We'll delve more into match day 3 then. But yeah, we'll also take a look at the captaincy options. That's the other thing. Right here, you look at the captaincy options. Just looking at the teams again. Group A and B play on the first day, which is now on the Friday. Friday is the first match day, or first day of matches in Matchday 2. Sorry, it's a bit confusing with the names and stuff, but yeah, on Friday, Matchday 2 starts, and you have Group A and Group B playing. And then Saturday, you have Group C and D playing. And Sunday, you have Group E and F playing. And then Monday, you have Group G and H playing. So obviously, you need to plan out your captaincy as well for this match day. You have some decent options in the first day of matches. You have Kane as the standout option for England, or Saka. Saka did really well last time. England playing against USA. You also have Netherlands, so you could go with Depay if he's back and fully fit, or Bergwijn, or even Dumfries if you want to be risky about it. But mostly you should stick to the high-profile captains, considering you only have 2 captains you can use each match day. So like I did last week, Messi to Mbappe. This time they swap it around. Mbappe plays before Messi, so you can definitely go with Mbappe first against Denmark. And if he doesn't score against Denmark, if Denmark are really as good as I think they are and not as bad as you think they are, Kevin, then and if Mbappe blanks, then you can just switch to Messi against Mexico and hope for the best there. Also, you obviously have Lewandowski. He plays even earlier than those two, so you can do Lewandowski first and then switch to, well, either Mbappe or Messi, depending on who you favor out of those two. Then you also have Giroud, who scored 2 goals, should be mentioned. After Benzema got injured, he became the natural replacement, and he obviously delivered with 2 goals. I have Martinez listed, but I feel like also we should list, or I think we should mention at least Griezmann as well. I think Griezmann looked really, really, really good. He created a lot of chances for France. He really should have had a couple of assists to Mbappe. He's in good positions. He just seems to step up for France like he did in the last World Cup. So he's also a great option. You also have Dembele. You have so many options with France. So it's only the fact that they play Denmark that is putting us off a bit with France, but still, they are players to consider. In the third day of matches, you have De Bruyne as the standout option, but he sort of failed in the first match day, so maybe it's not the best option, even though they play Morocco, which is a decent match. You also have the Spain and Germany match. They play against each other, so if you want to risk it, then you can go with one of those players. Spain obviously look really good, so maybe they continue playing well, but it's hard to know with Spain who's going to be their main guy. I think if you want to go with one Spain option, it should probably be Ferran Torres, who scored 2 goals and took a penalty for them, penalty taker with Morata on the bench. So he got a lot of points for me, and he's just also someone who performs really well for Spain. He's a really talented player, as we both know. We were both fans of Barcelona, and he hasn't really shown as much as he can do for Barcelona so far, but for Spain, he's a really good player. And then the final day of matches, on the final day, you have groups G and H. We obviously don't know as of yet because we're filming this on Wednesday after the Belgium match, so we don't know how the groups G and H teams look, but you obviously have some really good options there as well, with Neymar against Switzerland. Vinicius Jr., if he looks good in the first match, you can obviously go for him as well. Then you have Cristiano Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes from Portugal, but they face Uruguay, so probably not the best. And then potentially Richarlison against Switzerland if he's the starting striker for Brazil. He's also a really good option. So just a lot of decent captain's options, really. Are there anyone that stand out to you? What are your captaincy plans for this upcoming game week? Ideally, like if you could choose the 2 best captains, who would you choose?
It's tough to say simply because of not knowing what's going on with Brazil and Portugal, because I obviously think Neymar could be a nice little option, but for me, I think it's a bit obvious. I think it's either between Messi or Mbappe.
Yep.
Only because it's still a bit unsure about Kane's ankle. If
Mm.
Kane's ready and fit to go, for me, I think simply just basing it on matches and stuff like that, and with records and everything like that being played, then it should be between Kane and Messi. Simply because Denmark might be maybe not firing on all cylinders, but they definitely have the defensive aspect down. But that being said, I always said after watching that match that if they had faced France that day, they would have conceded quite a few because the issue was the fact that Tunisia got into their box, shot, had several dangerous chances, but obviously don't have the quality that say Mbappe, Griezmann, or even Giroud. So I think that's the only thing that is stopping me from saying that Mbappe is the clear choice. But for me as well, I think Mbappe is also a clear choice because of how bad the match, or not how bad it was. I had even higher expectations of Denmark because of the fact that they did so well in qualifying, and they are, like, I can say no bullshit. They are obviously the best team playing in Scandinavia right now, sadly. Um, but yeah, I think there's just not very good. They're not really attacking that well, and obviously conceded a lot of chances as well to Tunisia, to not France. So I could still see that ending 2-3-0 to France, considering the way they played against Australia, considering the fact that Mbappe could have easily have had a hat trick that game,
Yeah.
and 4-1 was pretty flattering at the end of the day,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy to me because when the second half started rolling, I was just like, oh, okay, so this is going to end really, really badly. But at first, when Australia scored and all this type of stuff, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a 2-1, 3-1 at most for France. But nope, they just got the ball rolling and played fun football, which is something that I've not always loved about Deschamps, because I think he plays sort of, uh, I don't know what's the term, sort of like a safe
Yeah.
football. Considering the attacking talent that he has, I would expect a more flair and crazy attacking about them. But to be fair, against Australia, Mbappe was doing the fancy flicks, then Booz was having fun, and Giroud was just doing Giroud things, just being right man at the right place. So I think if you want to have a differential captain, look at Giroud. I think Kane could be a nice little differential captain as well, simply because of the whole ankle injury and because he didn't explode in terms of points and wasn't an obvious goal scorer. That might sway people away from Kane. So I think look at those two. And Lautaro Martinez, obviously, for Argentina. I think I thought he was brilliant, despite not getting a goal, because obviously he got a goal ruled out as well. But yeah, to sum it up, look at Messi and Mbappe for your captain picks, and maybe go from Mbappe to Messi, depending if Mbappe fails. I don't think he will, but you never know.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for differentials, I think another name that I need to point out as a Barcelona fan, and also just a general appreciation towards the brilliant striker that he is. Lewandowski's getting super overlooked.
Mm.
Yes, terrible pen, but also really great from Ochoa. Poland looked like they just didn't have that sharpness that they normally have. But I still think, yes, fine, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina, but you can't treat them like they're going to win the World Cup at this rate. So, they're not all these other teams. They managed to grind out a result. To be fair, they could beat Poland, and if they do, credits to them. But I still think that you shouldn't overlook Lewandowski, especially if you feel that you've fallen behind a lot and all this type of stuff. You could go for him as a differential, and especially if Kane's out as well. He could just be an easy person to slot in.
Yeah. And considering if you use the wildcard, you can just see if Kane is in the starting lineup, and if he's not in the starting lineup, you can just swap to Lewandowski, and then you have a decent option there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think Saudi Arabia are the team are similar to the teams of Saudi Arabia in the World Cups of the past, where they obviously Klose scored 5 goals against Saudi Arabia, and that's part of the reason why he's the top goal scorer of all time in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee Lewandowski doing the same, but at the same time, Lewandowski is the type of player who, if he gets 1 goal, he can get 3 or 4. So he's definitely a decent differential option. Like you said, with Mbappe, he had really good underlying stats for France. He had 7 shots in the box and only 1 on target, which is kind of crazy. He had also like a missed touch on one of the chance where he it looked like he got an injury. He sort of feigned an injury, and then all of a sudden he was back to running at full speed, and Griezmann put a perfect ball through to him, but he just touched it incorrectly, and the ball went into the goalkeeper rather than him getting a shot off even. So Mbappe is just a great option. And like you said, Kane as well. If he starts, he's a really good option. He can definitely score a penalty. The US conceded a penalty against Wales. They could easily do the same against England, who had a lot of chances and probably should have had another penalty in the first match as well. So Kane is a great option. So pretty much in the first 2 days, you should probably have your captain sealed already, and you don't have to worry about that with De Bruyne or any of those guys in the later matches. Pretty much for the captaincy options, we'll look ahead to Matchday 2, and we have both, in our suggested squads, we have both used our wildcards. I'll go through mine first. This is my wildcard, and it is kind of similar to the team that I currently have, which is why I'm also considering maybe not using the wildcard, just using my 2 transfers that I have left, and then the 2 transfers I get in Matchday 2 to get sort of a similar team like this. But I'll just go through the team again for anyone that is just listening and not watching. So once again, I have Noppert and Dumfries, the double up with the Netherlands defenders. Ecuador scored twice against Qatar, but Qatar looked really terrible, so I don't think Ecuador are that good. It's just Ener Valencia who's really good, but he might also be injured. He has struggled with some injuries similarly to Kane. He struggled with a knock on his foot after the match. So if he doesn't start especially, then Netherlands is just a shoe-in to get a clean sheet, really, for me. I'm keeping faith in Trippier against the USA. I think, England didn't look the best defensively, but at the same time, you got to give credit to Taremi, the Iranian striker, who's really good. He's been amazing for Porto for quite some time now. And he just scored 2 goals against England. Trippier can definitely get some attacking returns, like Kevin mentioned earlier. And then I'm also going to back France against Denmark. Theo Hernandez, he didn't start in the first match, but he got subbed on pretty early because his brother tore his ACL, so he's out for basically the season. So Theo Hernandez is a shoe-in for France, and you could see against Australia how he affected the game and how he had a lot of chances to get assists and goals and all that stuff. So I think he's one of the best defenders in the game for only 5 million. So he's really a no-brainer for me, even though they play Denmark. So I'm going to have him. Same thing with Sosa for 3.5. Also a no-brainer. They play Canada, who were really wasteful against Belgium. And I think Croatia can even beat Canada and look better than Belgium. In the last podcast, I predicted Croatia to win the group in front of Belgium. I feel pretty good about that right now, even though they didn't win against Morocco, but Morocco are also sort of a tough team. But yeah, Sosa is just looking really good offensively for 3.5. He's a no-brainer, really. Saka, he just impressed a lot in the first match. USA should be another good match for him, so he seems like a really good and popular option this week. Then we have De Bruyne, kind of disappointing match. Morocco, who kept a clean sheet in the first match. Not sure how I feel about De Bruyne. It's just the fact that midfielders get 7 points for scoring goals. They get points for key pass, or should get points for key passes and tackles, even though they haven't been added into the game just yet. That's another thing didn't mention at the start, how the game is in a state of disarray, really, so far. The extra points haven't been added yet for tackles or key passes, but I expect them to be added at the end of the match day. So just for that, De Bruyne has a little bit of an edge. It's just he's not that much of a goal scorer. It's just penalties. You could always get a penalty, but I don't know. I'm still unsure about De Bruyne. I might downgrade him to upgrade one of my strikers that I'll get to. Before that, I'll just mention Daichi Kamada. He didn't score or get any points for Japan against Germany, but he's still their talisman. He played 90 minutes, which is a rarity for Japanese players. They subbed off some of their best players. They have a lot of attacking options, but Kamada is going to be there every single time. He's going to play in the number 10 for them and take set pieces. He's going to be their main man, really. So against Costa Rica, I think he could get a lot of points. As you just saw with Spain, all their midfielders got a lot of points against Costa Rica, and I think Kamada is in the same mold that you have with Gavi and those guys who ran wild against Costa Rica. So I think Kamada is a really good pick for 5.5. Another cheap pick, again, in the striker position or in the forward position in Ismail Assar. Plays Qatar, which is one of the worst teams in the whole tournament, the host nation. Assar looked pretty good against the Netherlands. Senegal looked pretty good, at least, against the Netherlands as well. It was a tightly contested match, which almost ended with 0-0, but then Netherlands got the goals in the end that they needed, mostly because Edouard Mendy is a pretty terrible goalkeeper at the moment. But yeah, Sarr created a lot of chances. He had 4 chances created, and he just looks like the main man for Senegal now that Mane is out. So he's also the type of player, as you saw if you've been playing Fantasy Premier League, when he scored against Liverpool and was like the main man when Watford beat Liverpool, when Liverpool won the league. He has those types of games as well, so I think he's a great option. Then, like we mentioned in the captaincy options, I have Mbappe and Messi. I'm probably going to do Mbappe as captain against Denmark, and then Messi if Mbappe fails. But I'm most likely going to have both of them in my wildcard squad. On the bench, currently I have Roche, the Uruguayan goalkeeper. He's playing against Portugal, so I might swap to someone else as a goalkeeper, but he's only 4 million, so I just feel like Noppert is going to be the main guy anyway. And if Noppert fails, I can just swap out Roche with my wildcard anyway. So it's really just I can be as fluid as I want with the second goalkeeper if Noppert doesn't get the clean sheet. On the bench, I have some really good options as well. Perisic against Canada. I think Perisic is the main man for Croatia. He doesn't play as a wingback for them. He plays as a winger. He had a couple of dangerous shots in the first match against Morocco, but didn't score, obviously. But he's definitely the guy to target, I think, for Croatia. It's either him or Modric, I guess. But I feel like Perisic is more attacking, and he's also cheaper, so it makes sense for me. Kostic, one of the many good options for Serbia. Just depends depending on how Cameroon look against Switzerland, he might be a really good option. 6.0. If they add points for tackles and key passes, he can definitely get a lot of those. And he can get some assists here and there, and even a goal if he really uses his left peg to his advantage. And finally, I have Alex Telles, Brazil. Still not sure if he's the starting left back or not for Brazil, but I also have 0.5 in the bank, so if Alexandro is the main man, I can just swap to him. And obviously on the wild card, you can do as many swaps as you want to get whoever player you want. So I feel like Telles is a great option in Switzerland if he starts, but if he's not starting, I can just do Alexandro. So that's pretty much my team. I don't know, Kevin, if you have any comments. What do you think? Are there any players you think seem out of place? Do you have questions about Sarr using a forward spot? Do you like De Bruyne? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's fine, simply because you have the wild card going. So any switches that you'd like to do, it's very easy for you to do. If you were just doing simple transfers, I would have been like, whoa, Sarr, are you sure? And all this type of stuff. But considering that it's all very much hypothetical at this point, I feel that, screw it, just go for it. I don't hate any of the picks really. Obviously, the only thing that I could like give you even remotely a little bit of stick for is obviously keeping Uruguay's goalkeeper when you could have the Tunisian goalkeeper or all this type of stuff. So, which is such a minor thing. So, genuinely, I don't think there's anything really wrong with the team. I think maybe what's Perisic's price?
7 mil or 7.5. I can't remember. One of those.
Yeah,
It might be 7.5 actually. Now that I think about it.
because you have point 0.5 on the bench, and if you really wanted to, you can potentially make him into Modric and make Tellez into that one defender who plays for Senegal. For
Sabali.
yeah, because we know Qatar ain't doing shit in that game. So,
Yeah.
I guess those are the two minor stuff. And the only reason I say Modric is because he's on penalties, really. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't. Perisic is a fine option. Otherwise, it's just a question of whether do you otherwise try and get the Maria in or stuff like that. That's, I mean, again, you're on a wild card, so a lot of this can change, and it's whether you stick to De Bruyne or not, and all this type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this team whatsoever. It's very similar uh, in terms of the one that you'll see next, and I think in terms of just the back line, pretty much everyone has, most, at least what I've noticed, a lot of people have Dumfries, Trippier, a French, uh, and Sosa because he's 3.5, and also because we know he's good. So, yeah, in terms of that, I think it's a perfectly good match day 2 team that will then get changed into whatever you want it to be in match day 3. So, absolutely crazy, yeah.
Yeah. There's also another option I have is downgrading De Bruyne to someone, well, like Di Maria, like you mentioned, and upgrading Sar to either Depay, or if I want to go with Kane, or if I want to go with Lewandowski. There are a lot of good forward options, or even if I want to double up on France. I don't think I'm going to do that this match against Denmark, but I can definitely do that option. The other thing is just looking at this team compared to my current team. I have basically Noppert, Dumfries, Trippier. Well, I have Pavard rather than Theo Hernandez. It's not that big of a difference. I have Sosa, I have De Bruyne, I have Messi, I have Mbappe. So I already have, and I have Rocher. So I already have 9 out of 15 players, and I have 4 transfers left. So I could potentially just do the 4 transfers, the 2 transfers this match day, and then 2 transfers for match day 2, and pretty much get the same team. Or a similar looking team. But the only issue then is that I don't have the option to switch into a different team for match day 3 unless I do the wildcard in match day 3. So these are the options that I'm considering in terms of tactics when it comes to the boosters. I could either do, like I said, the 4 transfers and get a slightly lesser team for match day 2, but then I could use the wildcard for match day 3 and have the limited transfers throughout match day 3. Because obviously match day 3, the thing with match day 3 is that some teams will already be through. And for example, France, if they're through, they might swap out most of their players. They might not have Mbappe, they might not have that guy. And you don't really know until the lineups come out. And you obviously have 2 transfers only in match day 3 if you already used your wildcard. But if I have my wildcard, I can switch out every single player that is benched. Like every player that you expect to start and who are all of a sudden benched because the team is already through, you can swap them out with the wildcard in match day 3. So I might do the wildcard in match day 3, and then the final option is potentially just saving the wildcard until the quarterfinals. Obviously, you get unlimited transfers for the round of 16, but then you can, if you do the wildcard in the quarterfinals, you can basically do a free hit in round of 16 with unlimited transfers, and then you can swap out that entire team for the quarterfinals, and then in the semifinals you can do the same as you would do with the wildcard in match day 2 and match day 3. You could do the same with quarterfinals. You can do a fully new team for the start of the quarterfinals, and then at the end of the quarterfinals you can swap out all those players to a semifinal team and have that team for the rest of the tournament, because the semifinal stage and the finals and bronze final stage will be the same 4 teams. So there are some other options than doing just the wildcard straight away. So I might look into that. It's just a matter of how good/bad match day 3 will be. So it's a really tough decision. I think I got to look at the groups and look at what teams might go through, what teams might already be through that I want to have players from in match day 3. I might just go safe in terms of if I do the wildcard, in Matchday 2 and Matchday 3, I might just go really safe with the Matchday 3 picks and pick players that are not through yet, like Argentina players who probably need to win the match, Germany players who probably need to win the match. So there's a lot of different options. I got to figure out what I need to do. But as of right now, I have the Matchday 2 wildcard slash Matchday 3 wildcard sort of mixture. But anyways, that's my team for this upcoming match day. Let's take a look at Kevin's team. It's sort of similar to mine. There are some key differences, but you can take me through the whole team, Kevin, as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the same exact defense and goalkeeper. The only difference that I have is I have Damen in goal, and he's playing Australia, and I have Sabli who plays Qatar, and obviously Matthias is probably going to make these subs unless he's adamant on keeping a certain player like Alex Telles and stuff like that, or whether he decides to downgrade De Bruyne and get a Kane or get a Neymar, which I just realized you don't actually have in terms of the team. The only reason why I'm considering getting rid of Neymar is simply because I just think that the other matches are easier. I believe, is it Switzerland that they're playing next?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess it's out of fear of facing Jan Sommer. But again, this can all change very quickly because, again, Kane might be injured. And if Kane's injured, then there's no point in me getting rid of Neymar and all this type of stuff. The only reason I'm even remotely considering Kane over Neymar, it's all the storyline stuff that comes with it, and also that USA conceded to Wales, who did not impress me at all, and I think England impressed me quite a bit with their win. So yeah, that's sort of it. I again, Mbappe might be Neymar instead because of the whole, or Denmark are sound defensively and all this type of stuff. But in terms of the other players, I have Saka. I was very impressed with his performance. I just thought, generally speaking, he looked good. I think he's been good for Arsenal as well as of the last couple of game weeks as well. Obviously, in FPL, he got unlucky with certain things and etc. But he's obviously hit the ground running here, and I think is a good option. Bergwijn didn't really do much, but once the pie started playing, then it all started to look a little bit better. So I think Bergwijn is a nice option. I still think he has that little bit of X factor about him. So I'm sticking with Bergwijn. The only thing now is that I'm sort of shitting myself if KDB hauls against Morocco, but it's like we mentioned before with KDB, he's not a notorious goal scorer. He's the sort of guy who gets like a goal or two at the World Cup, but will get several assists. So if Lukaku starts the game, then I'd be a bit more worried because they play really well together. But as of right now, Di Maria needs to perform and Messi need to perform. So I think it's that sort of urgency that's making me even consider this, because even if Belgium managed to draw against Morocco, that gives them 4 points, and then they have to beat Croatia, which I'm sure they've always wanted to do, so they can make sure to come first. So for me, Daichi Kamada also makes so much sense. I thought he looked great. I've obviously kept tabs on him ever since he became like a really, really good Bundesliga player. And I think, Costa Rica were terrible. So Japan beat Germany due to counterattacking. Now we're going to get to see Japan just play their natural game and probably just dominate the shit out of Costa Rica. I'm never gonna Messi punish me for not keeping him as captain, so I'm not going to make that mistake again. Obviously, I'm never going to transfer Messi out as well as Matthias until he gets knocked out, and if that happens, I think I'll obviously be keeping Messi, and he won't be getting knocked out anytime soon. I have Kostic against Cameroon. Again, we haven't seen Serbia play, and we don't even know if Kostic is start. We don't know anything about Serbia, but obviously, just from prior knowledge, current form, and everything like that, Kostic has been great. He's been one of the shining lights for both Serbia and recently gone really into his own at Juventus. A lot of fans really love him. I think he's just the obvious pick as a cheapo enabler, so we can have these really expensive players because everyone seems to cost like 8 million or above, or 7 mil or above. Sadly, it's just because he's playing Qatar, and I think Qatar are terrible. Like just uh just really bad. They just offered nothing. 2-0 was such a flattering score. And Valencia could have easily had 6 goals. But yeah, other than that, I think that's my team. I could shake things up a bit. Um, I'm not in love with England in the sense of like Trippier. I was so good for Newcastle. He was really good for England as well. It's just that there are so many matches where instead of me chasing attacking returns, I could just go for a quick and cheap 0-0 or like a not a 0-0. What am I saying? Basically a clean sheet. I could just be chasing that instead of trying to chase attacking returns because at the end of the day, attacking returns from defenders has been very few and in between. Like we don't have actually these like if you a lot of the players that got an assist so far, all of them pretty much conceded. There's very few that actually hauled and got like a 10-point plus game. So maybe I could make Trippier into a 4.5 or a 4.0 and then maybe upgrade a certain player here or there. But I think for now, this is as good as a draft gets. I mean, obviously, if like Cristiano Ronaldo gets a hat trick, then maybe I'm like, oh, maybe I need to get him. Or if Bruno all of a sudden is the star man, then I'm like, okay, well, then I got to bring him in or Bernardo Silva. There's just so much, unfortunately, with planning all these sort of episodes and all this type of stuff, it's a bit yeah, it's a bit crazy because there's no breaks in between anything. You know, it's Thursday is the final game, Friday morning is the next one, sort of thing. So it's really hard to plan without having seen everything because obviously it's one thing if it had been all these crap nations that had to play each other, but you know, we're missing Brazil, we're missing Portugal. I still want to see if Uruguay are as good as I give them credit for. I want to see how Ghana play and all this type of stuff too. So for me, it's just a bit hard to plan those players into any of this because if Cancelo gets like an obvious goal or assist, then Cancelo goes back into my team, sort of thing, and etc. So I think, but as things stands, and just from what we've seen, eye test and all, I think this is as good as a team can get. It's just a question of whether I make minor tweaks, but I don't think in terms of just looking at it now, I'm actually pretty happy with this. It's just whether I switch Di Maria to someone and Trippier to someone to then raise maybe Kostic into a 7 mil or etc. Because Milinkovic Savic might be so obvious of a pick rather than Kostic. That's one of those other things.
Yep.
But yeah, generally speaking, pretty happy with the team. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's just that match you mentioned with Brazil against Serbia that could change a lot of things because obviously you have 0 Brazilian players, but if they absolutely trash Serbia and win like 3 or 4-0, you gotta have at least 1 or 2 Brazilian players. Neymar is an obvious pick. If Paqueta or Bruno Guimaraes look really good in midfield, they might be good picks. Maybe someone comes out of left field. Maybe Anthony all of a sudden is really good for them and starts. Maybe Vinicius Jr. is really looking good. And then you obviously have the defenders. Marquinhos could always score a goal as a defender. Tell us if he starts. There's so many good Brazilian options that I feel like you should get some Brazilian players into your squad, especially if they look really good against Serbia. Same goes for Serbia. They have an even easier match in Matchday 2 against Cameroon. So you obviously have Kostic, but who knows? Maybe, I don't know. I've been looking at Tadic as well because he's the penalty taker for them. He's a bit more pricey. I think he's 8.0, but still, I think he's a great option. He's the talisman for them. Other than that, it's pretty similar to my team. Bergwijn is another player that I've considered as well. Might keep him still. We didn't mention that, but he easily could have had a goal if the pass from Gakpo was better on that big chance they had in the first half. So he's still a great option. It's just a matter of if he's good or if the pie is even better for the Netherlands. Di Maria, I like Argentina. They're obviously, we shouldn't really overreact too much. Obviously, they had 36 matches in a row without defeat before the loss against Saudi Arabia, so they could definitely just spank Mexico. But for now, I'd just stick with Messi, probably. I'm not sure about Di Maria. Maybe. He's performed well for Argentina in the World Cup. He's basically been the second best player in Messi's Argentina career. He's been the second best player. He's better than, obviously, Higuain. He's been better than Aguero next to Messi. He's been better than pretty much any player you can list next to Messi. Opposite like someone like Mascherano, who's more of a defensive player, but like he complements Messi really well. Which is pretty rare, which is kind of strange when you consider it with Dybala and Aguero, and Lautaro has been pretty good with Messi as well. But anyways, Di Maria is a fantastic player, but I don't know, for 8.5, maybe, I don't know. It just depends. But other than that, it's just one question I have left, and that is in terms of captaincy. I'm obviously doing Mbappe against Denmark and then Messi. I think for me personally, my whole idea behind it is what I did this week. Messi had 1 goal, that's it. So I swapped to Mbappe because I felt like Mbappe had a good chance of getting more than that. So that's the question for me. You obviously have Kane as captain currently, but how much points would Kane need to get for you to lock in the captaincy with Kane? Is it just a matter of 1 goal, 7 points, then you keep him? Or would you still be interested in Messi against Mexico even if Kane has 7 points, or even Mbappe? Or Neymar, potentially?
I mean, for me, it's, I think, all things considered, my captain should have been Kane and Messi, which would have been 14 and 12. And I chickened out from captaining Kane at the very last minute, and he would have gotten me 14 points, which I would have been actually pretty happy with. It's just that I think for me now, it's like anything close to double digits. So we're talking not 8, but like if Kane got 9 points against USA, I'd probably be happy with that. Because like 9, 10 points, you should be happy with. 11 points, you should, like, anything that's double digits, you should be happy with. Like, yes, you could potentially have Mbappe who got 10 points and then somehow Messi got 15, sort of thing. But at the end of the day, anything that's close to more than a goal should be considered just captaining, because right now, besides Ender Valencia and like anyone who got a brace or anyone who got a goal and assist, like it's been very much like a single goal at most that a lot of these players have been getting. And I think anything more than that should be considered a blessing. So, for example, if you had captain Ferran Torres, like let's say Ferran Torres was your only captain this whole game week, or let's say Ferran Torres's match was first, he got 10 points and you had captain him, I would have told you just stick with him. There's no point in you changing from him. And I think so yeah, I think the lowest, I guess I would say with captaincy, the lowest I'd probably settle for now is probably 14, so 7 points.
Yeah.
So basically they got a goal and got an extra shots on target or something like that. Like that I'd be happy with, because yeah, it's a decent number and all this type of stuff. So obviously the more the better. But if, for example, Kane manages to get 8 or 9 points, I might stick with that.
Okay. So if Kane repeats his performance, gets 7 points, you'll switch to Messi, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
If he gets 7,
8 points.
If he keeps getting 7 points just every game, then I'm just keeping it for the rest of the tournament. But if
Because I think personally, I think that's the line I would put it at as well. 7 points, I'd probably switch to Messi, but 8 points, I think I'd just stick.
Yeah,
So I
because
think it's around there. And it's also just the feeling going into the match and stuff.
yeah, because like just put it into perspective, right? Strikers get 5 points, right? So 5 plus 3 is like saying, if you don't count minutes played, it's like getting a goal and assist, right? And in Mbappe's case, that's actually what he freaking got. So yeah, I think like unless it was so obvious that a player is gonna haul, like a bunch of us did think that Enner Valencia would do against Qatar. Um, it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, there's no point in sticking or twisting. Obviously, in your case, it worked because you went from someone who only got 6 points to someone who got 9 points. But like for myself, like even with the a stupid thing that I felt that I did was I got goaded into doing KDB because it's a differential. If he had scored, he would have already have outscored Messi and all this type of stuff. But the thing is, Messi's a striker. I've already got the points. I should have just settled for that. But even that 6 isn't as high as something else. So it always becomes that question of stick or twist, right? But I think when it comes to strikers, if your striker scores or scores at least 8 points, just stick with it.
Yeah, pretty much my thoughts as well. I think 8 points. It just also depends on the captaincy. It just Mbappe against Denmark, Messi against Mexico, like they're not good enough matches. Like obviously for me, it was pretty easy this week with Mbappe playing against Australia. It just made a lot of sense to switch to him after Messi didn't score more than 6 points in Saudi Arabia. So that makes sense for me, but I think that's around the point I think you should, any of you guys watching or listening as well, if you get 8 points or more from your captain, you should probably just stick with him. If you get 7 points, it depends on what options you have as a captain, but that's obviously something you can keep in mind. But anyways, that's it for Kevin's team as well. So that will lead us into the outro. Just quickly, in terms of our schedule, our next podcast we're aiming at Sunday, which is the second to last day as well. That's when like now it will be before the Brazil, Portugal, Uruguay teams are playing. They play on Monday. But yeah, we'll probably do a podcast on Sunday with the updated squads. Probably both of us on a wildcard and looking into how we'll be shaping up our teams for Matchday 3 with the wildcard still intact. But yeah, you'll get to know that when we get there. And other than that, in terms of our planning for the upcoming match days, I think we'll both post our teams to our Twitter accounts and retweet them or post it on the FPL Scope on Twitter so you can see our final teams. We'll reveal the teams probably after the final matches played in this first match day, after we've seen Brazil play. So I think we're going to tweet it out after the final matches and then we'll retweet it on the morning before the match day starts. So that way, if you follow us on social media, you'll get to see our final teams. So don't come back to us with comments like your team is totally different from what you had in the podcast, because obviously things can change and we'll post the changes before the match day anyway, so we'll keep you posted on that. Other than that, just the usual stuff. Like, share and subscribe if you can on YouTube. If you're watching somewhere else, you can follow us on other accounts. Once again, I'm gonna just move it over to Kevin, our social media manager. Anything else you'd like to add and where you can find us and all that stuff? And
yeah, absolutely. In terms of everything that's going on, you should see a uptick with stuff. I mean, we've generally been tweeting a bit more, and we'll be definitely trying to incorporate some of you guys into all of this. And yeah, I think with the World Cup coming up, I think we should do once the knockout stages is sort of clear. We're obviously going to do a predictions video and stuff like that, but we hope that we get you guys involved in that too, because obviously it's always fun to see some of your predictions with everything like that. I mean, some of the wild stuff that I've seen so far is what was it? And I couldn't believe it. Someone actually did tip Giroud to win the golden boot, and I'm like, he's up to 2 goals already, so fair enough. So some stuff like that we definitely want to be discussing and definitely want to be sharing. So please just make sure to just drop us a message or just retweet anything or comment, and we'll definitely be interacting with that. We're definitely trying to interact with just more accounts in general, just get our names out there, and also just to hopefully just make a dent in that regards, because there's just so many crazy moments happening during this World Cup that's just been just genuinely, it's really annoying to say. I'm having a lot of fun with this World Cup. It's just I hate the fact that it is where it currently is and everything like that. I completely understand why so many people are boycotting it and everything like that, but at the same time, it's I'm a sucker for all this shit, so I get all caught up in it and want to see all the players perform and etc. But yeah, keep an eye out on especially on Twitter, and you can reach us there.
Yep. That's about it from us. So thank you, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Take care.
See ya. Bye.